G'day Finru, how you doing? Welcome along to Homebrew Wednesday on a Wednesday once again. So, of course, I'm not brewing apart from vegetables, so I am having a can of Guinness. Getting very, very cold here in Twizel. We had snow a few days ago, and then we had heavy fog and just cold and dank. And I've had this fire going over here. I've got this fire going. And just trying to, away you go, Baxter. Away you go. You know, when we get back to Christchurch, I'm sure he'll be up with the play. Anyway, so I poured a pint of Guinness. No, I just poured a glass of Guinness. So I went and got some Guinness today. I had a bit of a flare uptake of the last few days since the cold, which wasn't flash, but today I sort of bounced back, and so I'm feeling quite good. And it's nearly time to go back to Christchurch. The house is looking really good. I'm really happy with everything that everyone's put into it. My wife has steered the ship and come up with a great result. And the photos that she sent me have been great. And she's been to visit me here in Twizel a few times. So it's been really, really good. So cheers to my wife. Thank you so much for all the effort you've done. And to everyone that's been with me on this trip. So cheers. When in doubt, get a Guinness Stout. So it's getting very cold here. As I said, we had snow here the other day, a couple of days ago, and it settled on the ground a couple of inches. My friend in Buffalo is Baxter. He would call it thick rain, really. I mean, an inch of snow compared to 6 feet is quite different, but never mind. All the same, we still had a taste, and it's still pretty cold here and dank. This fog comes in the Mackenzie Basin, get the fog coming in, and then when it starts to freeze, you get this what they call a hoar frost, where the actual fog starts to freeze on fences and things like that. It's quite dank and cold. But still, the people here are okay. They're actually very, very, very nice, and I've got to know a few people. Not many. I spent most of the time here by myself and just cruising and meditating a lot, and just it's been good. As you know, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to come here. I didn't want to go to Wanaka. I just wanted to stay home, but I had to go, and it's been a fantastic experience. So that's good. So thank you everyone on YouTube for that come along on my journey. So I really appreciate that. So home brew. So I'm really looking forward to getting my brewery up. I'm sure I'll have to do a lot of cleaning, getting my brewery up and running again. I've got quite a few recipes that I've been watching you guys brewing your beers. And there's I've got a list as long as my arm, at least a dozen different recipes, which is not like me because I just like to, as you guys know, like to stick to, a 2 or 3 sort of beers. But I'm looking forward to getting back into it and cleaning all my gear up, getting it all set up and brewing some good beer. So what have I done this week? So what I said to you guys last week, where you go? What I said to you guys last week. So I was talking about we're talking about fermenting vegetables here. So after I talked about it, I needed to get, because I've only just started to do this. So I'm a newbie. So if you're a newbie here and you want to learn about how to ferment vegetables and whatnot. I brew a lot of beer, but because I'm away for the last 4 months from home, I started fermenting vegetables, and these are onions that I've done. So just to bring you up to spec, I started fermenting stuff, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but as what I like to do is do a bit of reading, but you can drive yourself insane reading all the different things about this, that, and the other thing. And the best thing to do is get in and just do it and see what turns out. And if it turns out like crap, fine. but you always got that's a starting point, and you got we're going to learn. So what? So I've brewed a few things as far as vegetables go. So I started to take a bit of notice about what the brine ratio is from so the amount of salt you put in the water that you put to the vegetables in the pot. Now, there's a lot of schools of thought about different vegetables having different levels of brine. So this is what I've come up with so far. You get one jug, 500 ml jug, which is half a litre, and I boil a pot of water. And I boil it until I think that, and then I turn it off and then I let it sit for an hour so that all the chlorine has evaporated out of the water. And then I let it cool. So I get my half litre jug, and then I put 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt in the jug, and then I pour the water in on top and mix it in. This is into the jug, just a clear jug, with the 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt, and I dissolve it up. So that's 500 mils, half a litre. So that's my brine. Then, Baxter, away you go. Then I take, in this case, it was I guess it was 3 onions or whatever it was, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many onions or what size, as long as you can get, as long as half a litre will do the job. So I think in this case it would have been about 3, maybe 4 onions, peeled them, chopped them up into quarters, threw them in the jar, and then filled the jar up to about this far from the top with my brine solution. Okay. Then put the lid on. Now the thing is that once it starts to ferment, the gases are going to come out. So you want to try and maybe what's it is, just loosen it a little bit. In this case, these jars, these lids aren't really airtight. So if you can hear that, but they will actually leak out. So, but still, I still every day get up and have a look. And so I put them in I've got a video coming out about this too. So I put these in room temperature. So we're looking at about 20 degrees for about 5 or 6 days. And then maybe put them, I'm thinking, these have only been going for 6 days. And I'm going to try one of these onions. But once you get the ferment started, it tends to sort of keep going. So after maybe 6 or 7 days, you want to maybe put them into a dark cupboard. And if you're putting them in room temperature, if it's cold like it is here, put them by the fire. Make sure you put a cloth over the top to keep them nice and dark. And the temperature doesn't want to get much above 20 degrees. And so that'll start the ferment going. Okay, so we're talking about Lactis labilius. Are we? Lactis labilius. Sounds like something out of Monty Python. But it's a lactic fermentation. Okay. Lactis labilius. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so let's move on. And so we're still doing the job here. So this has been about a week in the week by the fire, and so if I wanted to keep fermenting it, if it was still too crispy and not quite done, then I would probably just leave it in the cupboard in cool temperatures for about another week, and then try it. And then once I'm happy with the way they taste, then they go in the fridge. So putting them in the fridge actually stops the fermentation. Okay, so let's have a look here. Let's have a wee look. Now, so I do have a couple of pieces of larger onions that I've put in just to keep the onions that I want to eat down below the waterline. So here we go. So let's just take a wee bit of onion here. Ooh. Mmm. So that is very, very tasty. And excuse me, it's got the probiotics going on, which is apparently good for your gut health. So wow, so all the that's really very, very, very nice. That's 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt per 500 ml. So when I talk about that ratio, what I'm actually saying is that you grab a jar, put all your vegetables in it, then make a separate batch of water and salt. And in this case, it's water, 500 mils of water, and it's 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt dissolved, and then that gets poured in on top of the. All right. That's wonderful. That is really, really good. So what do I want to do with these now? So this one here, I'm saying to myself, wow, I could really eat that with a few beers and whatnot. That would be very nice to have. Different from pickled onions. Slightly salty, but I think 1.5 tablespoons is great. As time goes, so I've got another jar here. So this is awesome. Now, a couple of days ago, I did another jar of this is garlic, onions, and chili peppers. And once again, I did 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt into a jug of water. Stirred it round, 1.5, so half a litre, 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt. Chopped up my onions and my garlic and my chilies, and then I poured it in and filled it up. And of course, you get a little bit left over in your jug, so that goes in the fridge. And what I do with that is that after, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 days or a week, you'll find that the vegetables actually absorbed a wee bit of that brine. So you might want to top it up a little bit. Just top it up a little bit so that because you don't want to have the fermented vegetables up into the air that air casing that's inside there. You don't want that. It can cause mold and some unwanted things. But I haven't had any trouble so far. So I'm happy. Fermented onions, fermented garlic. Now, I did talk about a couple of weeks ago when I first started doing it, I did some cucumbers and some other things, and I said they got quite slushy. I'm going to dump them because they're not really my cup of tea. I have to readdress, we learn as we go. We can't just sort of start to do it and then go, oh, I know how to do everything. I'm really good at it now, after one batch. No, what I've found is 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt per 500 mils in a jug of water is great for these. But I did some cucumbers, and I think I put about 2 or 3 tablespoons of salt, and it was way too much. I've done some sauerkraut. Still need to refine that a bit. I need to drop it down, maybe 1.5 tablespoons. Is the same thing with the cabbage for the sauerkraut, but I'm learning as I go. But what I know is, if you're going to do some onions, do some chilies and onions, and 1.5 tablespoons in the 500 will give you a good brine. Now, cheers. You can't beat a can of Guinness, can you? You can't beat it. If you don't know what you feel like, and you've got all these IPAs are thrown at you and this, that, and the other thing, just go back to this. Probably where all this all started. Brewers. Okay, so just on the ferments, I've just done. See, I had some mayonnaise. that I finished the jar and I thought, oh, it's not a bad jar. It's plastic. Will it work? There's only one way to find out, and that's to do it. So what I did was, if I over tighten that, it'll just strip it. But what I did was, I thought, okay, I got this jar here, so I really washed it out nice and clean, and that's really important. Don't have to sanitize it so much, but you really have to clean them up really nice. So what I did was, when I went to the shops, what I did, that's not a seal, that not another of these. So what I did was, I just bought a bag of carrots, and I just put them into lengthways into quarters. Did it once again. Did the old 1.5 tablespoons of sea salt into a half litre of water. Mix it through, and then when I put them in there, and I just poured the water in on top and closed the lid. And I'm just going to see how that goes in this plastic thing. It's food grade, so it should be fine. Apparently, that's really good. So there are different recipes. I couldn't see any. There's different herbs you can put in it. Peppercorns, you can put garlic and onions, you know. But I just wanted to try it, just basic carrots, to see how they go, and hopefully they'll come out all right, and I can use them as a bit of a dip. Better than your old chips, your salted chips. Not very good for you. So that's that. That's going really well. I'm quite enjoying fermenting vegetables, and I've still got a lot to learn. But it's just like home brewing beer. You just write out your recipes and write out what you're doing and see how they come out, and you make up your own rules as you go along and how it comes out. So whiskey is this. I remember a few years ago, they found a case of Shackleton's. Shackleton, he was an explorer and went to the Antarctic with his crew, and he was a very, very good explorer. And these guys are tough. I'm freaking cold here, and I've got keep my fire going, and I've got to keep my coffee going, and go out and get the wood. And these guys are freaking tough. Here they are in the Antarctic. Their ship gets wrecked and lodged in the ice. So this is the short story about this whiskey. Here's a nice cork. The short story about this whiskey is, so Shackleton went out on an adventure with his crew to the Antarctic, and so he was a British explorer. This is 1907. So he had actually ordered 25 cases of MacKinlays rare old Highland malt whiskey to take on his expedition of 1907. In 2007, 11 intact bottles containing this perfectly preserved whiskies were recovered from under the ice beneath Shackleton's base camp. So, in the early years of the 20th century, Sir Ernest Shackleton led one of the most famous expeditions to the Antarctic, overcoming tremendous obstacles to ensure that all of his men returned home safely. That expedition is one of the greatest stories of exploration and leadership in history, and has inspired adventurers across the world ever since. So what happened was, in 2007, when they found this whiskey under Shackleton's hut, it inspired the master blender Richard Patterson. You guys will know Richard Patterson if you're drinking whiskey. He's a very famous master blender. To create the Shackleton whiskey as a personal and deeply felt project. So he really committed to making it as authentic as he could to what the guys were drinking on their expedition. So he basically remade this whiskey. He's combined the best Highland malt whiskies, allowing them to marry over a long period to create an enigmatic blended malt with a with a dash of body and a whisper of smoke. It has complex notes of vanilla, honey, and orchard fruits, with real warmth and depth at its heart, like Shackleton himself. So he's a very big hero, Sir Shackleton. So I saw this today, and for many years I've seen it and I've gone, well, that's great. And I'm a bit of a history buff, and I thought, well, that's great, but it's a blend at the end of the day, and I think it came in at $90, which for a blend I thought was pretty steep. But today I was feeling a little bit inclined. So this is the basically the Richard Patterson blend that tries to replicate the Shackleton whiskey that he bought to take, and I said for 25 cases. How much whiskey was in 25 cases? Was it 12? I don't know. But it was MacKinlays rare old Highland malt whiskies. And this is made by MacKinlays. Rare old Highland malt whiskey, the spirit supplied to the British Arctic expedition. Okay, so here we go. And I have had a couple before, you can see that. So. We're going to take our time. So I'm getting pear there. I'm getting pear apple. Vanilla, honey, and orchard fruits. So pear apple. Vanilla. Yeah, I guess so, at a stretch. See, these guys that do this, this tasting and reviewing whiskies are very, very good. I guess it does have, a vanilla. But definitely pear and apple for sure. That's what I'm getting. What else did it say? Smoke. Oh, there's a very slight smoke. You'd have to be really good to pick it up. Oh, it's very slight though, by geez. I wouldn't call it it's not a smoky whiskey by any stretch of the imagination, but I guess that the professional whiskey taster or smeller would be able to take it, but I can't really smell the smoke too much there. But still, that pear and apple is just very prominent. I don't have any sea salt. Orchard fruits with real warmth and depth and character. Yeah. Cheers, Sláinte. Oh, that's a beautiful drop. Lingering finish. I held it in my mouth and I'll tell you what, lingering finish. Tart, apple, pear. And slightly sour, slightly bitter. And yeah, definitely warming. That's a beautiful. That's a beautiful. Oh, that's a beautiful drop. A beautiful drop. She's a cracker. Well, thank you so much for watching, coming along. Obviously, when I get back to Christchurch after next week, get my brewery set up, I'll be doing a lot more. I'll be getting back into home brewing. So, thanks so much everyone for coming along with me on my trip south and staying in touch with me. I've really appreciated it. I've really appreciated it. So sláinte everybody and cheers. And I'll see you soon. So take care. Yeah, thank you. Cheers.